Welcome back to the Michael D. Show. I'm your host, Michael D. Butler. We're in the Beyond Publishing Studios in Dallas, Texas, and I'm so excited about our next guest, Dr. Chris Berg. He's the best-selling author of the New Age Trojan Horse. Now, tell me a little bit about this book that you wrote for Christians.
This book specifically goes through Orthodox Christian theology and compares it to New Age theology. Then we take those comparisons and we apply them to find out whether practices like Christian yoga and the Christian Enneagram are actually Christian and biblical, or whether they are, as my title says, a New Age Trojan horse.
Wow, and I bet you're causing some waves in the Christian community, right? What kind of blowback have you been getting?
Absolutely. So what's fascinating about the Christian Enneagram actually is how fast it's exploded on the scene. Major publishers have this on their front page.
Right.
Major churches.
Churches are using it for all their staff and their church members and their marriages. I mean, they're integrating it.
That's right.
And you know, churches, they're kind of, I don't know but I know you've got a lot of people that are sharing it. You were on the McDowell show. Tell us a little bit about that interview and why it got over 50,000 views.
Sure, it was an awesome time with Dr. McDowell, and I think the thing is that people are genuinely interested about whether the Christian Enneagram and Christian yoga are actually what they claim to be. And there's not a whole lot of material. There's some things out there, but we need more voices in these areas speaking about this stuff. And that interview was a lot of fun. We got to talk about the details of the book, and we got to go through some of the, like you said, some of the testimonies. From that interview, for example, numerous people posted in the message boards about how the Enneagram had led them away from Christ, about how it was only when they got rid of it that they ended up coming back to Christianity, that it was destructive. And not everybody said that, but there were a lot of those testimonies coming out. And that this book was actually very helpful for people to be able to have that conversation. Because part of the problem is people don't have the words. They don't know what to say this isn't a good thing. And this book gives them those words.
You know, the Apostle Paul taught good, sound doctrine, right? And he was always warning the Christians about, staying away from, false doctrine. So give us a little feedback on some of the people that have embraced you and then some of the platforms you've been able to. I would imagine a lot of Bible colleges would want you to speak. And I know you've talked about maybe doing a workbook or another academic version of the book. Tell us a little bit about what's in development.
Sure. So I've got actually a pamphlet that we're going to be working on that sort of summarizes a lot of the findings of the book and makes it easily accessible to people. I've also got a workbook and a course that I'm developing on New Age Christian Yoga and Christian Enneagram that people will be able to take through my university that I work for, Ecclesia University. And we're reaching out to a number of churches as well. We got to work with Ratio Christi, and we did a talk for their apologetics conference, the Atlantic Coast Conference. So we've gotten around. It's been a lot of fun. Liberty, my professors loved it as well. They were very excited about the topic. So it's been a good, well received.
Now, I know you're an alum of Liberty, and a lot of Christian folks know who Liberty is around the world. Is that where you earned your doctorate?
Yes. I got my doctorate or my PhD in apologetics and theology from Liberty University. I'd just like to also thank Dr. Campbell and Dr. King as some of the most influential people that helped me in my journey.
Now, I would say you're not, we have people in the doctoral program contact us all the time about turning their thesis into a book, and it doesn't always work. You had a lot of work to do to make it ready for the street and ready for the Main Street market. So how was that? How long did that take?
So that process actually was the harder of the process. It took me about 3.5 months to write the book, but once I got in there and tried to make it ready for mass consumption, I had to do a lot of editing, a lot more explaining, a lot more conclusions, pull out some of the pretty big footnotes and things like that. But I think what we've got now, for example, when you look at the book, you'll look for a theological topic. There'll be a nice page to 2 pages about what Scripture says about the theology, a nice page about what the older theologians, and a page about the newer theologians, and then we move on. So it's very digestible, and people will, I believe, who get the book, will be able to have a more robust understanding of what they believe. And that's, again, one of the key things. I wrote this with discipleship in mind. I want people to understand Christianity and what they believe, and also be able to protect against the infiltration of New Age thinking into their lives.
Well, it's very powerful. I'm glad you shared, Dr. Berg. One final question is, we have a lot of seeker-sensitive churches in America and around the world. I know you recently started a church, I think, in Raleigh-Durham, right?
Yep.
Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
Where do you find the balance as a local pastor with your congregation of making everyone feel comfortable versus doing a deep dive into doctrine like you do?
Yes, so this is really important. I think in general, in our church services, and I like Michael Horton's comments on this actually, our churches really have to be about the drama of Scripture, the doctrine, but in a way that's easily digestible by people. Catechism is an older word used, but it just simply means teaching people about the doctrine of Christianity. And then that moves us to praise. And so, for example, when we read the creeds, when we understand theology, when we read Scripture, we're moved to worship God in praise, and then that leads to the outward expression of love to the community. And I think that when we water that down, we end up losing that drive for praise, we end up losing that drive for discipleship. If it's too technical and too theological, we'll lose people who just haven't had the training. And so you're absolutely right. There's this fine line that we have to walk where we really express the doctrines of Christianity, but also why they're so beautiful, like the doctrine of the Trinity and the Incarnation and the doctrine of salvation by grace through faith.
Wow. We'll keep preaching the word and teaching good doctrine, and I appreciate you for being with us here today on the Michael D. Show. This was interesting. You're our first theologian here, and how do people find you and follow you?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook through Spirit of Truth Outreach. You can also find us on YouTube at Spirit of Truth Outreach. We do live streams every week on alternating Tuesdays and Thursdays, and if you're interested in the church, just go ahead and respond on Spirit of Truth Outreach website, and we can tell you when we meet.
Dr. Chris Berg, New Age Trojan Horse. Pick it up today, grab some for friends, and share it with your pastor. I think it will be enlightening for you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.